Thefts usually occur really quickly, and usually when no one really sees you. They typically take around 5 minutes and maybe 10 minutes at max. But have you ever heard of a 6-hour heist? A heist so brilliantly executed. Imagine a couple guys bypassing all security cameras in one of the densest places with wealth and making it into the vault, opening it, which had millions of combinations, and then leaving without a sight. Oh, it gets much more complex than this. Carefully planned out and organized crime. There were so many things that I was surprised about when I started researching this as well. Behold, the world's largest diamond heist in history. It all started off with a guy sitting in a coffee shop in the midst of the summer in 2002. He was located in the Diamond District's facility, close to the center of one of the most secure facilities of diamond trading in the world. It famously houses many diamonds, very rare gems, and exquisite materials. One of the densest places of wealth in the world. Leonardo Notarbartolo, a renowned criminal. He stated that he was born to be a thief and remembers everything he did in his first theft. His mother sent him to gather milk, and he came back with around 5,000 lira. In elementary school, he stole from teachers. And fast forward around 2 decades, he was learning how traders started to trade diamonds, rare gems, and the science behind how people work. He then started to make a team for organized crime and just things of theft in general. And when he found the right people for various types of jobs, they all combined and they were known as the School of Turin. Anyways, Notarbartolo was in Antwerp, where the diamond facility was housed. He was there as he saw a great wealth of opportunity there. Large garments with encrusted diamonds could be disassembled and then sold in Antwerp for the purest form of currency, cash. So one day, as I was saying, when he was like in the coffee shop, a guy, one of his buyers, because he only deals with certain people, comes along and sits down at his table. And he stated, "I'd like to hire you for a robbery, a big robbery." So basically, Notarbartolo was given the chance of robbing the biggest diamond center in the world. And he declined. You see, Notarbartolo had already been inside the Diamond Exchange Center, and he knew how the security was, how everything operated, and realized that there was no way that such a crime could be pulled off. He was even allowed into the vault at certain times as he was a tenant who resided in the area. He knew the amount of security was stacked and it was going to be virtually impossible, but for 100,000 euros, he negotiated that he could take photographs of the interior of the vault and perhaps some of the rooms as well. And so he did. With a miniature camera within his pen, he walked around inside the exchange center, right through the vault as he showed his ID, and made it through. Took various pictures of how the vault looked, how the interior of the vault looked, and where certain cameras were, and the security of the vault. And this is precisely what he saw. The vault was not on the main floor. The vault was actually 2 stories underneath the building in a very claustrophobic room. It's a very cramped room. And it was called the Vault Antechamber. This led to a 3-ton steel door, and the door had 6 layers of security. There were 4 wheels with combinations 00 to 99 on each of the wheels. And the digits of the wheel were shown at the very, very top. And this means that there are exactly 100 million combinations to this vault. Yeah, let's say that you were a little more prepared. You got the drill and you got some equipment with you. Could you just drill right through it? No, you can't. The door was rated to withstand 12 hours of constant drilling. And that wouldn't even matter in the first place. There were embedded seismic alarms and detectors within the vault's door, which would immediately trigger when, you put a drill inside the vault. And let's just say we bypassed that somehow, I don't know. The door was also monitored by a pair of two metal plates, and one was on the door and one was on the wall. This created a magnetic field within the plates, and if they were ever broken, an alarm would ring. For trading hours, they would have to put in another code into a separate keypad, and that would disable the alarm. Oh yeah, there was also a foot-long key that had to be inserted within the door to open this, after all other security has been bypassed. And after that, there's also a steel grate to remove. So yeah, 6 layers of security just for the door. And then within the vault had another 4 layers of security. So the interior was surrounded by thick concrete walls. There were motion and heat detectors as well, light detectors and security cameras. The safe deposits were made out of steel and thick copper, and each of the safe deposits had 1 keyhole as well as 3 combination wheels, all ranging from 00 to 25. Notarbartolo knew that within a certain period of the day, the vault was open, but this was all guarded by multiple people within the antechamber and had manual cameras as well. So he knew that this wouldn't be able to happen in the day. So if there were to be a heist, it had to be at night. And unfortunately, during the midnight hours, no one patrolled. They were all relying on their technology to make sure that the heist would never happen in the first place. And this was their liability. So afterwards, Notarbartolo gave evidence to the dealer and showed him that this was virtually impossible. The dealer calls back to Notarbartolo approximately a couple months later, and he said that he was waiting in an abandoned warehouse. Then Notarbartolo went there and visited the guy, but there was a sense of confusion. He was standing in the vault's antechamber. He saw the vault door, exactly the same, had the same glass and the same door. It was an exact replica of the Diamond Center's vault. Notarbartolo understood at that moment. They used the photographs to build a 1-to-1 replica of the vault, just from the photographs. There were 4 people there, excluding Notarbartolo. We'll call them the genius, the monster, the king of keys, and the dealer. These are the names that Notarbartolo called them, and the aliases that they chose for themselves. So the genius was specialized in alarm systems, and he was a master at finding how alarms work and instantly disabling them. The monster was called the monster because he was just huge. He also had many skills as well. He was an expert at lockpicking, a mechanic, an electrician, and a driver. The king of keys is quite a name, but this name was given to an old man. He was known to be one of the best key forgers in the entire world. He would contribute in replicating that 1-foot-long vault key hidden away. With this, they asked Notarbartolo for one thing. It was a clear video of the foot-long key, and the genius would state that he would help him out on that. In exchange, Notarbartolo asked if he could choose the driver, and he chose one of his good friends, Speedy. Around this time, the Proximus Diamond Games tennis tournament was happening, and De Beers, one of the largest diamond suppliers in the world, gave their monthly shipment of raw diamonds to Antwerp. Notarbartolo buzzed into the vault once again, and the guard got used to just seeing him walk in and out, so he just buzzed him in. However, this time, Notarbartolo had a can of women's hairspray and sprayed it in one swipe across one of the cameras without any of the guards knowing. We will come back to why he did this later on. And so, it was a day. 5 people, a little after midnight, arrived in duffel bags. The genius led them out in a place that didn't have video surveillance. Then he made it onto the balcony of a certain area, deactivated the alarms and the sensors there, and made it in. They dropped into a stairwell and instantly went into the antechamber, and whilst covering all the security cameras with black bags, and then flipped on the lights. And this is where all 11 months of preparation came into play. The genius used a custom-made piece of aluminum and slid it between the 2 metal plates on the door and the wall. Once he did this, he unscrewed both the metal plates off the door and wall and moved them aside. And therefore, the magnetic field would never disrupt. Notarbartolo, on the other hand, checked in on all the other rooms and was surprised by what they saw. A major security flaw. In one of the rooms lay the original key to the vault. They used the original key because they didn't want to let the manufacturers know that their key could be replicated at all, and the police never even knew they replicated it until Notarbartolo told the story in prison. In the meantime, the genius dialed in the combination for the wheels. When they were trying to get the picture of a key, they put a camera in the fire extinguisher in the corner, and they not only got a photo of the key from all sides, but they also got the combination of the lock. Once they realized that the door could be opened now, without any of the alarms triggering, they decided to do it. The monster initially turned off the lights so that the interior sensors wouldn't pick up the light from outside and triggered. The King of Keys picked the lock on the metal grate and pried it open. The monster walked exactly 11 steps in the middle of the room and reached into the ceiling to push up a panel. They knew this because they had a 1-to-1 replica and also practiced over and over again within the 5 months of time. There was a security system within that panel, and there were 2 wires going down. If any of the sensors were tripped, the circuit would break, and if the circuit broke, there wouldn't be a pulse that was sent. And if the sensor didn't detect a pulse, then the alarms would be triggered. So to get around this, the monster took a pre-made piece of copper and attached it to the wire, making a short circuit, rendering the sensors practically useless. However, they were still cautious about, any other sensors going off, so they decided to put duct tape over one of the sensors, the light sensor in particular, and then they put a styrofoam box above it as well. With their homemade drills and machines, they started to crank out each of the locks for around 3 minutes, and once they were pried open, they would shine a flashlight for split seconds so that they could position the drill onto the next lock. They kept drilling, and in those glimpses of their flashlights, they would see the bars of gold, the gems, and the various colors of purses they saw. By 5:30 a.m., they opened 109 boxes, and then they decided to leave with their duffel bags. They escaped via another route through the antechamber, outside, and got into the car. This took approximately 45 minutes. Once they did leave, they started opening up the satchels and the bags to see the bags and the items they had. But then everyone looked up, terrified. The diamonds and the items were not there. Initially, the amount that was stolen was around 100 million euros worth of items, but the amount that they were received was just 20. After some time, Notarbartolo came up with a conjecture for this. He thought that the dealer could have still came into play in this and told some merchants that this was going to happen, and they kept their gems in their safes, and once this heist happened, they could call for insurance claiming that their gems were stolen when they were really not, and gotten extra money from it. Notarbartolo realized, we have been set up. This wasn't the end though. Speedy and Notarbartolo were on the famous E19 highway on the European road, and they were heading back from Antwerp with their share of the money and started going to Turin, and Speedy was getting really nervous. He told Notarbartolo to pull off, but he declined, and eventually he did pull off into the middle of the forest. When he did, Notarbartolo had to remove some of his gloves and burn them down as he had fingerprints on them. But when he came back, Speedy saw him throwing out just random stuff out of the car. VHS tapes were all over, hanging on the branches. Some letters were scattered around. Pieces of food were scattered around as well. It was just such a mess. But then after Speedy calmed down, both Notarbartolo and Speedy just left. A farmer nearby who lived close to that forest called in the cops. He stated that there were just a bunch of kids fooling around and there were just a ton of garbage all over. This was typically regular for the farmer, and so the cops didn't really care much at all. But when he mentioned Antwerp Diamond Center envelopes, the police came in running. From there, they found the mastermind behind all of this heist, and this was Leonardo Notarbartolo. Once they found out, they searched his entire apartment and they found even more evidence leading to the other 4 members as well. And for proof, he had a half-eaten salami sandwich and his DNA was in it. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, then leave a comment, like the video so other people, see it as well. And yeah, have fun. See you guys. Take care.